Finish are at it again, releasing more Doctor Who vinyl record releases, as in today's review I'm going to be taking a look at the latest release from the series, which is of another 10th Doctor adventure, this time round Death and the Queen, featuring David Tennant alongside Catherine Tate as Donna Noble, from the original 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1. Now this release was in fact limited edition to 1,250 units and was an exclusive to HMV stores throughout the UK. Unusually and unlike all the other releases within this series, it was exclusive to pick up within store, but also you could order this from the HMV website. It was in fact a pre-order and the recommended retail price was $19.99, making this release a little bit easier to get hold of. However, as of at the current time of filming this video, the Death and the Queen vinyl is now sold out on the HMV website, so your only chance to get it is in fact in store if you are a UK customer. So I have in fact already taken a look at Death and the Queen as a part of the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1 all the way back in May 2016. Therefore today's review is going to be a rather exciting one, because I am going to be revisiting the story and seeing how my opinions have possibly changed, because in 2016 that was in fact the very early days of me listening to Big Finish. In fact I only started reviewing Big Finish releases, I do believe, a few months previous. So it is going to be interesting looking back on this story, having listened to it again, with my knowledge of Big Finish audio dramas that I have gained over the past few years, and generally how those other releases have kind of affected my experience and how I almost digest Big Finish audio dramas. If you are just interested in this story as a whole, it is also available to order on the Big Finish website. There is the download, and the physical CD is only $9.99. There's all the story details on the Big Finish website, along with casting information as well as the trailer. It's also available to be purchased as a part of a CD dual case set, along with the other two adventures from the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1. So firstly, and as always, starting off this vinyl record review by taking a look at the actual product itself and what you get for your $19.99. The cover art for Death and the Queen is pretty much exactly the same to the 2016 CD release. However, this time round the different images used have in fact been repositioned ever so slightly to suit the vinyl record sleeve format over a regular Big Finish sidebar format. So at the very top we do of course have the new series 13th Doctor logo, this time round in the yellow and orange typeface, and just above this we have the BBC logo, along with a full cast audio drama starring David Tennant and Catherine Tate. There's been some rather nice choices in imagery, including this image of Catherine Tate, I do believe from the Partners in Crime photo shoot possibly, and then of course in the background we have the castle from the story that the whole episode is focused around, along with of course Death himself, looking very cool indeed. Sadly we do also have an image of the 10th Doctor, which is becoming a little bit overused by this point. I think it has been used on a number of Big Finish releases, so it would be nice to see an absence of this image in the future and maybe use a few other pictures of David Tennant instead. The rest of the actual vinyl itself has been given a green theme, and we do of course have the nice lightning effect in the background as well, and towards the bottom we get the title of the release by James Goss, featuring Alice Cridge, Alan Cox and Blake Ritson. Flipping the sleeve over to take a look at the very back, once again we are continuing that rather nice looking green theme with the new series Doctor Who logo. An absolutely brilliant image of Death there with the skull exposed, along with a little bit of information about Big Finish as well as their social media, along with the Demon Music group. We do also have a little write-up about the actual story as well as the full cast for the episode itself. Due to this vinyl record being produced earlier on in the year, we do in fact have a unique identification number on this product, which is 412 out of 1,250. Sliding out the protective vinyl sleeve that does of course contain the record itself, we do once again have a continuation of the many different shades of green, along with all of the production credits for this story, including who the episode is written by, along with the sound design, music arrangement, and other people who worked on this release, including cover illustration by Tom Webster. And on the very back we do get a further bit of information, including the production notes from James Goss, as well as the director of the piece being Nicholas Briggs, along with a rather nice image of Catherine Tate and David Tennant. As for the actual vinyl itself, this time round, of course, Demon Music Group are known for their rather unusual vinyl record colours, and this time round they've gone a rather basic design, because we have already seen a green vinyl record within this series, from what I can remember. So this time round we just have a clear vinyl with no pattern on whatsoever. However, we do get the Doctor Who logo, of course, in the very middle, alongside a Part 1. Of course, the opposite side is Side B. So yeah, a rather nice, different vinyl, I suppose. Not green, it may have been nice to have a splatter vinyl or something like that. However, of course, there is multiple opportunities for that on the future releases. So overall, for the Death and the Queen vinyl, I think that if you've collected the other vinyl records in this series, you pretty much know exactly what to expect, and it is another nice addition to the collection. So I definitely recommend picking it up if you are a fan of the 10th Doctor on Big Finish, or especially a fan of this story. Of course, it would be nice to see a few double LPs in the future from the Demon Music Group. I'm aware that will probably have a higher recommended retail price of around £25. However, I think that for some of the more exciting stories within the Big Finish catalogue, it will certainly be worth it, such as episodes like Jubilee, The Holy Terror, and many of those very popular releases from the classic series Doctors. And just as a little bit of an additional announcement, if you're a fan of Doctor Who Big Finish vinyls, as well as the other Doctor Who vinyls that have been released, then do of course stay tuned on the Host Productions, as coming soon I will be doing a Doctor Who vinyl record collection video that will be up in the next few weeks. So as per usual, I do really like the vinyl record release. I think that they've done a very nice job of converting over the original cover art and having a variation upon this to suit the vinyl cover shape as opposed to a regular CD. And naturally, if you get the opportunity to pick this up and you've collected all the others in the series, I certainly recommend picking up this one as well, because you are very soon probably going to have all of the 10th Doctor adventures within the vinyl record format. As I've said within the previous reviews, I would really love Big Finish and the Demon Music Group to expand out and do a few of the other adventures, maybe some 8th Doctor, maybe some War Doctor, some other stories that are only 1 hour long as opposed to just the 10th Doctor and 4th Doctor, because at the end of the day, the main audience that are going to be buying these are Big Finish fans anyway. They are the only people who are aware of these releases, and it's not like you're appealing to the new listeners by having vinyl records that are quite hard to come by after the weeks of release. So I think that if anything, they should just release more of the niche Doctor Who stories, such as Jago Lightfoot, such as Bernie Summerfield, because as I say, at the end of the day, the only people that are going to be paying that £19.99 price tag are those dedicated Big Finish listeners, also just so happen to be a fan of vinyl. So now taking a look at Death and the Queen as an actual story, of course as written by James Goss, a Big Finish regular, and I think that his writing style is very unique and quite often very comedic. He does certainly create some of the more unique and interesting Doctor Who stories that also have a brilliant personality to them, and I think that Death and the Queen is a perfect example of that, because all of the characters within this episode absolutely leap off the page. You believe in them. However, sometimes I think that James Goss's writing can quite often be very theatrical as well, suited to the new series fans, because a lot of the characters are very loud in the way that they present their different lines, but also at the same time quite a lot of the scenes can be over the top. And in the case of this story, I think that it works very well, because I can't help but imagine Death and the Queen as almost a theatrical piece that is actually on stage in front of an audience, because all the characters almost sound like they are playing to an audience, trying to get the best line and make the most impact within a scene. However, I think that for those people who like a more serious Big Finish story, then this episode may get on your nerves. I think I can recall when I reviewed the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 1 that I like the stories in release order, so my favourite episode was the first episode of the box set, being Technophobia, then Time Reaver, and then I think Death and the Queen was at the very bottom. And looking back, I actually think that Death and the Queen is probably one of the more fondly looked at stories of that volume, and it's very unusual because I think that when I first listened to this story, I didn't really appreciate it for what it was, and looking at it on vinyl now, after a few years of experiencing Big Finish on audio drama, I think that this story does in fact have quite a lot to offer. I think that David Tennant's performance is absolutely brilliant as the 10th Doctor. There is a lot of his character traits in there, surrounding into situations, being incredibly loud, and also Catherine Tate is absolutely brilliant as well. It's nice to see that the relationship between the 10th Doctor and Donna being tested throughout this story. However, it's not the case of a loving relationship, it is two mates that are together, and kind of the Doctor seeing her going off and potentially marrying somebody from the past, and we see him trying to give Donna up almost like a father protecting his daughter in a way, and we see her taken by Rudolph, which is a character that we meet throughout this story, who kind of is the ruler of his own little kingdom. Goratania is very unusual because it is a little kingdom on Earth that the Doctor has never heard of, and basically we find out within this story that it is almost under a cloaking device, and we have this own little community living in this own little world. We have this royal family almost, where we have Rudolph and the Queen Mother, and them ruling over everybody, and everybody who is below them is inferior and basically worth absolutely nothing, and they are living in this world of peace for over 500 years, and as I say, they think that they're absolutely brilliant. However, they are scared to go out into the outside world, and we see this trade being made between Donna becoming the wife of Rudolph, and we also see this concept of death being in this story, and I think that death is such an intriguing character, almost left to be a little bit of a mystery as well. However, the way that that is presented within the final act of this story is once again quite over the top and theatrical, but when you have a TARDIS team such as the 10th Doctor and Donna, I think that works well. I think that this story is a very unusual case because the entire cast for this story is actually superb. So as I've already mentioned, David Tennant and Catherine Tate. Rudolph is played by Blake Ritson. He's absolutely brilliant, a very naive character that's kind of following in the footsteps of his mother and doesn't particularly want to step out of line. He's really interesting. The Queen Mum herself, as played by Alice Cribbage, she's absolutely superb as well. She's a really dislikable character because she just thinks once again that she is amazing, but she has some brilliant one-liners in there, and her interactions between Donna are absolutely hilarious. Hortense, as played by Big Finish regular actress Beth Chalmers, she's brilliant, kind of a temporary companion of the 10th Doctor for the story. And finally, Death, as played by Alan Cox, a wonderful character, as I say, really nicely written by James Goss, and I think that the whole concept of him is very interesting. I love the deal that is being struck between Rudolph and this kingdom and Death in order to maintain that peace. So I think that it is a very strong cast, and as I say, a very small one as well, that kind of supports the idea of this being a theatrical story that could definitely be on stage. I think that that said, comparing this story to the other 10th Doctor adventures that I have reviewed over the past few years, I think that Death and the Queen does have something about it that does make it stand out. I think that all of the other 10th Doctor stories do have the habit of falling into a science fiction trope. I think that especially Technophobia, Time Reaver, I think that Cold Vengeance as well does have that just science fiction-y theme. It is a regular Doctor lands in a science fiction environment, there's an alien, the Doctor defeats the alien, there's a fun amount of scenes between the different characters, and that is basically it. The episode is resolved. And I think that it wasn't particularly too adventurous. However, Death and the Queen kind of falls into the same category as The Creeping Death and No Place, and I think that all of them are very strong stories because they contribute something that is a little bit more than just a science fiction episode. It is generally a fun experience to listen to. The characters are rather bold and stand out, and also at the same time the environment that you are in feels kind of believable, and I think that Death and the Queen is around the same level as No Place because of that. They are both rather experimental, both have a little bit of a different format to usual. I would certainly like to see more of this within the 10th Doctor adventures in the future. I think that certainly I'm imagining that the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 4, after of course a very recent announcement of Freema Agyeman now doing a Torchwood single range story, I do believe called Dissected, as written by Tim Foley along with Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper, I think that the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 4 is very quite obviously now going to be the David Tennant stories alongside Freema Agyeman as Martha. I will be very surprised if it isn't. And if that is the case, which I think is very, very likely, I would like to see more experimental and out there stories, but also at the same time, when we return to the Billie Piper adventures, especially after Dimension Canon, I would like to see, once again, that era maybe being upped a bit, having a few more experimental stories, because so far the 10th Doctor and Donna adventures are a little bit more superior than the 10th Doctor and Rose ones. So thank you very much for watching this Big Finish audio drama review of Death and the Queen, revisiting the story from 2016, as well as taking a look at the vinyl record release. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have been interested by the vinyl record throughout this review and would like to go and purchase it, I wish you the best of luck of finding it in your local HMV stores. And do of course also stay tuned on The Host Productions for brand new Doctor Who Big Finish audio drama reviews every single single month, and of course hopefully we will be taking a look at another Big Finish vinyl record review at some point in the near future, which fingers crossed isn't a story to feature the 10th or 4th Doctors. So thanks for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.